The gate closed behind me with a sound that echoed too long. The air changed instantly. It smelled of rust, damp stone, and something old that had been trapped for decades. My flashlight flickered as if it sensed danger before I did. The place stood silent, yet it felt crowded. Walls rose on both sides, stained with dark streaks that looked like dried memories. Every step I took felt louder than it should have been. Dust lifted into the air and settled on my tongue. It tasted bitter and sharp. I checked my watch. 24 hours had begun. The hallway stretched forward, narrow and uneven. The ceiling hung low, pressing down on my thoughts. Cold seeped through my shoes and climbed into my legs. Somewhere far away, water dripped in a slow rhythm. Each drop sounded deliberate. I passed doors sealed with iron bars. Behind one of them, something shifted. My breath stopped. The sound repeated, closer this time. I told myself it was only air. My hands trembled anyway. The deeper I moved, the darker it became. Light struggled to survive in this place. The walls felt damp when my fingers brushed them. They were warm. That realization sent a wave of discomfort through my chest. Stone was not supposed to feel warm. A sudden gust passed through the corridor. It carried a whisper, not words, but intent. My ears rang as pressure filled my head. I turned around. The path behind me looked different. Longer, more twisted. The exit was gone. My heartbeat grew loud, almost painful. Sweat formed on my neck despite the cold. Hours passed without meaning. Time felt broken here. The silence shattered when metal scraped against stone. Slow, deliberate. I froze. The sound came from the darkness ahead. My flashlight revealed a room opening wide and empty. The floor dropped slightly in the center. Footprints covered the dust. They were fresh. They were barefoot. And they were facing me. A sharp smell filled the air. It burned my nose and eyes. I stepped back and felt the floor sink under my weight. A deep vibration surged through the walls. The room reacted to me. The door behind slammed shut on its own. Darkness swallowed the light for a second too long. When the flashlight returned, something stood at the far end. Not moving, not breathing, watching. My skin crawled as a low hum filled the space. It came from everywhere at once. The walls pulsed like a living thing. The figure leaned forward. Bones cracked softly. The smell grew stronger. I realized the place was not abandoned. It was waiting. And I had just been noticed. The figure stepped closer. Each movement dragged sound across the floor. Not footsteps. Pressure. Like the room itself shifted to make space. My chest tightened as the air grew heavy. Breathing felt thick, almost liquid. The flashlight beam trembled in my hand. It revealed skin that looked stretched too tightly. Pale. Cracked. Veins moved beneath it like crawling threads. The eyes reflected no light. They absorbed it. I tried to speak. My throat produced nothing but dry air. The hum grew louder, vibrating through my teeth. The walls responded, pulsing slowly, as if matching a heartbeat that was not mine. A sharp pain struck behind my eyes. Images flashed without warning. People standing where I stood now. Their faces frozen in terror. Their mouths open mid-scream. The floor beneath me warmed further. It felt soft. Too soft. I shifted my weight and felt it give slightly. A sick realization settled in. This place was layered with what remained of others. The figure stopped a few steps away. Its head tilted at an unnatural angle. Its jaw opened wider than human bones allowed. No sound came out, yet my ears rang violently. My watch buzzed. The screen flickered and went black. Time refused to exist here. A sudden draft rushed past me, carrying the scent of decay and iron. My stomach twisted. The figure lifted one arm. Its fingers bent backward before curling forward again. The motion sent a jolt through my spine. Every instinct screamed to run. But the air pressed down, pinning my muscles in place. The walls creaked. Cracks formed and spread like veins. From those cracks came whispers. Not voices. Memories. Regret. Fear. They brushed against my thoughts, invasive and sharp. I staggered back and collided with the sealed door. It felt colder than before. The metal vibrated as if something pressed from the other side. The figure leaned closer. I smelled old breath mixed with stone dust. My vision blurred as pressure built in my skull. The hum dropped suddenly. Silence crashed down hard. The figure vanished. Gone without movement. Gone without warning. The room felt wrong without it. Too empty. Too alert. The floor beneath me shifted again. A section collapsed inward with a dull, wet sound. I barely caught myself. Below was darkness that seemed deeper than space allowed. Something moved inside it. Multiple shapes. Slow. Patient. I pulled myself away, gasping. The walls began to close in. Not fast. Purposeful. Every inch tightened the pressure in my chest. Lights flickered overhead, revealing symbols carved into the stone. They pulsed faintly. The symbols felt familiar, not because I had seen them, because I had felt them before. A sharp ringing filled my ears as a realization struck. This place responded to fear. It fed on hesitation. The more panic I felt, the more alive it became. I forced my breathing slower. The walls paused. Barely. Sweat ran into my eyes, stinging. The air tasted metallic again. A low growl echoed through the corridors. Not from one direction, from all of them. The symbols glowed brighter. Heat radiated outward. Pain flared across my palms where they touched the wall. I pulled away and saw faint marks on my skin. The same symbols. Burned into me. The growl turned into movement. Shadows detached themselves from corners. They stretched across the floor unnaturally. They climbed the walls. They crawled toward me without form. My heartbeat thundered so loud I feared it would alert them further. I backed into another hallway that appeared where none existed before. The place reshaped itself effortlessly. As if guiding me, or herding me. The corridor narrowed quickly. Cold returned in waves. The smell shifted to damp earth and mold. Something brushed my ankle. I jumped and nearly fell. The touch lingered longer than it should have. My skin burned where it passed. I looked down. Handprints appeared briefly on my leg. Then faded. The corridor opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling disappeared into darkness. The floor was covered with shallow water. Each step sent ripples across the surface. The ripples did not fade. They moved against each other, forming patterns. Faces. Mouths opened silently beneath the water. I froze as one face rose too close to the surface. Eyes opened beneath the film of water. They locked onto mine. The water trembled violently. The chamber responded with a deep rumble. Something enormous shifted above. Dust rained down. A shape moved across the ceiling. Long. Segmented. Too large to belong to anything that should exist here. The air dropped in temperature suddenly. My breath fogged instantly. The water around my feet began to freeze. Cracks spread outward rapidly. A loud crack echoed as the ice broke again. The cycle repeated. Freezing. Breaking. The place tested me. The symbols on my hands burned hotter. Pain shot up my arms. The shadows gathered at the edge of the chamber. Waiting. Watching. I realized something with chilling clarity. The 24 hours were never meant to be survived. They were meant to change whoever entered. And the place had already begun its work. The pain in my hands slowly faded. The symbols dimmed, then sank into my skin as warmth. The chamber grew still. The water settled. The faces beneath the surface closed their eyes and dissolved into darkness. The shadows retreated into the walls like obedient servants. A deep silence returned, heavier than fear. I stood alone. Breathing became easier. The air no longer resisted me. A low vibration passed through the floor, gentle this time. Not a warning, an acknowledgement. Light appeared ahead, soft, steady. A doorway formed where the wall once stood solid. I stepped forward without hesitation. The place no longer felt hostile. It felt finished. As I crossed the threshold, the symbols on my hands vanished completely. The door behind me sealed without sound. I emerged beneath the open sky. Cold night air filled my lungs. Stars shone brighter than I remembered. I checked my watch. 24 hours had passed. The structure behind me looked abandoned once more. Silent. Empty. As if nothing had ever lived inside. I walked away without looking back. Some places do not chase you. They release you when they decide you understand. And I understood one thing clearly. The place did not want victims. It wanted witnesses.